And it's this time of the week again. In case you don't know, I had a project going on some time ago where people could send in requests for topics they wanted me to talk about. It was meant to be one giant April Fool's video, but that was too much for me, so now I'm slowly crawling my way back up for all the requests, one video at a week. Also, people requested me to do this podcast style instead of a video, which I won't do because making it an official podcast gives it a sense of officialness to it, while these videos are just really lazy, drawn-out April Fool's joke at this point. I will, however, upload the audio of this video on a link for those who want to hear me rambling without the visuals, because the visuals of this video is kind of pointless anyway. But considering my accent and some of my audience have hearing trouble, I tend to include subtitles, or in this case, the general core of what I'm saying so they can read along. Although yes, what I say isn't always directly how it's written. Whatever, enough technical stuff, let's get to the point. Mario Dissected would be nice. Ugh. Look, I hate it when a Mario fan starts talking about what Sonic games should be like. To me, that's the same like a Geoff Cremont, Grand Prix, or a Forza fan talking about why Mario Kart sucks, or a Universal Boxing Manager or Street Fighter fan ranting about Smash Bros. Being a bad game. As in, it's technically the same game genre, but the complete and utter polar opposite within that genre. So you have different standards, different perspectives, different joy, and basically sound like a damn idiot when you talk about the other game, regardless of the order. So what I'm trying to say is that me being a Sonic and Sega fan, I feel a little uncomfortable taking on core Nintendo franchises because I will sound like an idiot and focus on all the things that fans of the franchise don't give a hoot about. But whatever, April Fools, I'm in service of you guys, so let's talk Mario. Starting with acknowledging that Mario and Nintendo are way more stable and successful than Sonic and Sega. But I'm going to talk about why I prefer to stay on the losing team's side regardless. Mario fans, get your pitchforks ready. Okay, one thing that took me a long time to wrap my head around is considering platform gaming is a genre on its own. I always saw platforming as a natural part of action games, just one of the many things how action games provided challenges, and not a genre on itself. To me, that saying platforming is a thing on itself is like saying the ladder climbing in Mega Man games is suddenly a genre by itself. So to me, I like context-driven action platformers. I'm a vampire hunter infiltrating Dracula's castle. I'm a soldier fighting off aliens. I'm a robot protecting a city. Whatever. And the level design, the music, the art, the story, the way your hero controls and moves, all this philosophy and how the game's designed is all connected to that central premise. But then there's Mario, who's entirely vanilla. He didn't used to be. Mario Bros. 3, Mario Land 2, Mario Sunshine. There's plenty of Mario games that also have a world of context around its platforming or interesting visuals, but man, modern Mario. Nintendo's king of gameplay. They mastered how Mario controls and feels, and it's fantastic. But it comes at a price. The price of them nothing. The price of them not giving a single fuck about anything else. And sorry, I want context in my games. I want roleplay, I want adventure, I want romance, I want immersion, which the Mario platform series is not interested in at all. And having debated a lot with Mario fans, it always feels alien to me because I have such a different outlook on how and why I play games than them. To me, it's mostly about the experience. To them, it's much more literally a game, a challenge. So Mario, instead of an adventure, is more of an abstract mathematical obstacle course where you get joy in mastering the exact properties and physics of your movement and then go through obstacle courses to test them out. I mean, that's the case with most platform games, but usually there's layers of action and context and more stuff on top of that that makes you kind of forget about the naked game aspects of the game, and it just becomes more part of the general experience and challenge. But with Mario, it's like they trim all the fat and remove all the sensations around it until you're left with nothing but the core naked skeleton of the game. An avatar representing physics and a collection of challenges to calculate your way through. The only thing of emotional value being nostalgia. Hey, remember Mario 3? And that makes me uncomfortable. To me, the best kind of gameplay is the one you don't notice. I don't want to think about press the A button to jump, do a video game thing, so a video game thing happens. You run at exactly 20 pixels a second and there's 50 pixels of enemy ahead. Your jump arc is 40x pixels divided by 20 in a loop, blah blah blah. I want to be a character, in an adventure, feel like I'm him or her, not literally think about the mechanics, as mechanics. That's why I'm not so into Mario. It's too vanilla, and I feel the way of thinking required to enjoy it is too alien for me. Although I do like some Mario games, including modern ones like Mario 3D Land. On a handheld, it's fine, kind of like Tetris or Pac-Man, or a simple game that you do for 5 minutes when bored. But as a big 100 buck, buy the latest system, spend the entire weekend playing non-stop super experience, from that angle, no. And then the fact that all modern Mario games are made to be played with more people at once is not helping for me. It makes the levels feel more flat, missing the dynamic of the older Mario games, and there was a lot more weird stuff happening. King of gameplay, great to control, but everything else bores me to death. It's a shame, the Mario universe has tons of fun elements. Look at the Mario Kart games, filled with crazy environments and characters. Fucking use them, Nintendo. Have a world taking place in Wario's crooked game factory, so the levels are a mix between the factory stage and corrupted video games around it. Let us visit Daisy's kingdom sometime. It looks great with the yachts and sunny towns and casinos. Go back to Dreamland with Ward. I'm sure Dream is a great concept for a level where you can do crazy things and weird stuff happens. So many interesting characters and locations, and they're just not using any of it. They just keep going back to generic grassland, generic desert land, and beachland, and forest land, and iceland, and skyland, and lava land, in that specific order over and over and over again, although sometimes flying candy in space land for variation. Yay! Ugh. It's like they're desperately trying to prove something. I'll prove that gameplay is the most important thing, so I'll make gameplay perfect and everything else the most brain-numbing boredom you ever saw. Great. Well, Mario is the most successful platform hero out there, with all the others dead or dying and selling millions, so I guess Nintendo did have a point. Cool. Good for you. But it's not for me. I used to think Mario games were a big event, the big system sellers, the big flagship game franchise, but now the Mario platformers feel like a spin-off in their own series. Like those games are like the tennis and golf games. Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, Mario Platform. You just jump on platforms. I prefer Mario Kart. In fact, everyone does. Mario Kart is selling way more copies. Heck, I hear more people say that they'll buy the new Nintendo system when the Mario Kart is out than when there's a new Mario platformer. I'm starting to wonder if Mario Kart is overtaking the platform games as the actual flagship series of Nintendo. An amusing thought. Myrere, Earthbound Dissected. Earthbound. There's something about Nintendo RPGs, well, except Pokemon and Fire Emblem then, that always make me feel uncomfortable. The weird art style usually, the fact that characters only talk exclusively about gameplay and things directly relevant to you, so I never feel like I'm having an adventure in the real world, but I'm in a weird artificial world. Earthbound is a little bit different though, better on world building, but there's something else. Now, I love the idea of an RPG taking place in the modern world, 1950s American towns. Being European, big American cities are way more exotic to me than medieval towns anyway. I can bump into those things 5 minutes from my house. But yeah, an RPG taking place inside of a 50s alien invasion flick, that's a great concept. And then it's all the cute and cartoony, and you have your own friendly dog, Mr. T is a random villagers. Everything looks like a kid-friendly cartoon, all nice. But something just feels off. That neighbor kid, Porky, bit of past, but then you see his parents screaming at him and talking bad at him and being very abusive. Oh, and in the Japanese version they even beat him, but they might even as well done that in the Western version. They already seem very unpleasant. Playing Earthbound, it kind of feels like you're really playing as a kid and watching the world through a kid's eyes. A kid with a sense of humor and tendency to turn everything around him into comical caricatures. But beneath that childlike humor surface, it feels like there's some intense and dark shit happening. Me being exactly that kind of kid who would constantly work with stress, terror, and trauma in real life by transferring that into humor in my head, this whole game just hits a nerve with me. That there's something wrong and things can go bad anytime. Very uncomfortable game for me. Some people are surprised that Earthbound ends with a final boss fight that's based on the director's traumatic memories of watching a rape movie or something. I felt something like that was coming all the way from the start. Your silly cartoons and wacky characters don't fool me. And then Mother 3, you play as a cowboy and a little kid who can headbutt a T-Rex and knock out. Wacky! And then everyone dies and is miserable and shit happens and depression and... Damn. The Mother games, intense. They hit an uncomfortable nerve with me, something deep within. A sense of helplessness and impending dread. Ido Wolf and other people like Apocalypse 21. It would be fun if you dissected tropes, typical behavior and character traits in Sonic X and compared them to your earlier Sonic Dissected videos about the main series and boom.
About Sonic X. Oh, you mean the adventures of Chris Thorndyke and his friend Sonic? That's a lot of talking and research. Let's save up Sonic X for a future Dissected. Can't be studying 60 episodes for this quick video. Are you mad? Roughly speaking, Sonic X seems to treat the characters on Sonic Heroes level of writing.
Soulon21, I can't believe I'm asking this, but could you do a Persona Dissected, please? Persona, sorry, haven't played it much. I only had a brief try of Persona 4, but I was really intimidated how the plot just keeps pushing you forward. I mean, when you get into an abstract brain dungeons, the game quiets down, but when you're in the real world in the game, it just keeps throwing cutscenes at you, and you're just constantly clock ticking, and the game just won't let me explore the world and fuck around. I'm constantly being pushed forward and forward. It intimidated me. Technically, I suppose I should love this game. I love the concept of going into people's brains and watch someone's personality to be symbolically represented as sort of kind of dream world. That's a cool concept. And I love an RPG taking the real world. But yeah, I fear the style of the game scared me too much to really try and enjoy the content too deeply. Miles Defoe.
About dissecting a real person. Sorry, don't have a human body to cut open here. Just look at this picture. Hang on. Captain Fury, where are ya? I've got a job for ya!
The Surge 79. The 3D jumps of certain games such as Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, and of course Sonic are now mostly hated by the gaming retro group and ignored by the general gaming public. Well, general gaming public always follows the latest trends, of course, and they don't care about anything of old. Is there really so much hatred for Mario 64 in Ocarina of Time? I mean, sure, sequeletas. Aaron has a very specific taste in games and likes them to be clean and tight, which especially older 3D games rarely were, except maybe Crash Bandicoot. I wonder what he thinks about that series. Anyway, Donkey Kong 64 was always under fire, even during its release, as far as I can remember. Anyway, yeah, if there's indeed an increase for hatred of older 3D platform games, that would really baffle me, especially if it happens now. 3D platformers are practically dead and buried, so calling for ARMS to kill them further at this point in time seems just petty. I guess the reason why there's less respect for the early 3D games over the other early games is that Atari and NES games and such were completely blind pioneers inventing video games from scratch, where the early 3D pioneer games were a temporary awkward reduction in game quality after 2D gaming was perfected, up until 3D games got their own style figured out. So yeah, 2D platforming and such was temporarily killed because of awkward 3D. That would have left some bitter memories, although 2D retro gaming has returned big time. So from this perspective, from this point in time, whatever. Either way, the early 3D games were more fondly remembered often for the experience, the world, the opening of many new possibilities, more the emotional value rather than their genuine gameplay mechanics. I'm noticing that recently game analysts can't always stand the idea of games being remembered for emotional values over a mathematically perfected, programmed set of obstacles. Though yeah, even though I'm being passive-aggressive against this invisible group of retro gamers now, I haven't really noticed an increase in anger against it, except with Sonic the Hedgehog, but then again, everything with Sonic the Hedgehog is constantly under fire, so, you know. Might just be that dissecting and hyper-analyzing games is a trend now, and early 3D games' greatest strength are much more abstract and context-sensitive and emotional, so that they won't survive a critical look as much as a more straightforward arcade game would. Good Machines. I think it would be fun to hear your stance on the current game with video games medium like your mini games with a lot of skyrocketing in popularity of the indie game scene. Alright, indie games. Basically, I could say that indie games is pretty much what the video game industry was in the 80s and 90s, just small teams of people with an idea searching for an opportunity. So I would say that indie games didn't really skyrocket. That's what video game creation was always like. Instead, it's the super big AAA mega games that are the actual new skyrocketers. As the main game companies get bigger and need more profit to survive, you create a situation where only a few games can become a success, the mega successful games like Grand Theft Auto, and the rest just dies. Mediocrity doesn't survive. On the level of $1 million games, there can only be one. Indie games instead are like the smaller platform where bigger risks can be taken because there's less money involved and less ego involved, also very important. Not to mention, even though our culture demands games to become huge, enormous super games, there's also many gamers that don't want to be stuck being responsible for playing a 60-hour game and just want some cheap thrills for an hour for a couple bucks. My girlfriend, for example, she's mostly a gamer for socializing, I would say, plays games because she hears people talk about it, and then so she can talk about back to them about it. So she prefers indie games way more, play for an hour and you're ready to talk about it. And it's also way more fun for Let's Players. They prefer to have a lot of different topics to talk about for a video or two and then move on. And most don't want to be stuck playing the same game for hundreds of videos because then you'll run out of things to talk about. So yeah, different reasons why indie games are still relevant.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yeah, I do know about this. It's a series of stories that follows the family line of the Joestars, powerful fighters that take on weird and strange supernatural creatures with unique abilities. They started out with bodybuilder-like characters in homage to Fist of the North Star, and then become looking like fabulous fashion models with lots of colour. Also, each part seems to be based on a certain genre, with Phantom Blood being like Bram Stoker's Dracula, Battle Tendency being like the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, and Stardust Crusaders being like a road trip movie around the world with homages to horror movies of the 80s. Also, from Stardust Crusaders onwards, the characters would have stands, spirits that are part of your soul that fight for you with names based on the tarot and pop songs. It can take any shape or form you want. Like I could have a stand that is a muscular cricketer with a visored helmet wielding a cricket bat. That's on fire! How about you, Roger?
A spirit called after a pop song on tarot? I guess mine would be Dancing Fool, a failed disco dancer flailing about and knocking everyone over. As for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, sorry, never saw any of it. Ever since Dragon Ball Z bored me to tears, I stayed away from any anime starring machos. Though if the series plays like an Indiana Jones movie, then I might just check it out.
Fire Emblem. Right, the best way to describe this game is having a fantasy RTS game with the game mechanics of a chess game. You have a set amount of units and you move them in a certain way, and like chess, your units can be killed off for good. If you like chess, I would say it's pretty good, although it can get quite frustrating in parts, trying to keep your units alive or trying to fulfill requirements to get a new recruit or a secret level. I have only played Shadow Dragon and Blazing Sword, and I also have Radiant Dawn and Sacred Stones yet to play. I would like to get Path of Radiance, but due to its rarity, it's a bit expensive for me to get. Also in newer games like Awakening and Fates, they implemented dating mechanics in the game, where you form relationships between units. I suppose that's an interesting way to put character development into a game, but I'm mostly in it for crushing the army of a rival lord. It's like if in chess you want to have your rook and your knight to fall in love, so you can get a cool new chess piece with some new ability. Also, I don't care they removed the petting feature for Fates. Don't see the point of poking a woman in the face.
As for me, I never played Fire Emblem. Chess and RTS games is not my thing. Well, I liked Warcraft too. Is Fire Emblem anything like the Suikoden series? I love that series, and I don't mind the war elements there. Although I did skip over Suikoden Tactics. I don't know, I don't see the point of an RPG where you can't roam around exploring. That's half the point for me. And ever I haven't touched Fire Emblem, sorry. It's cool that they have different ways to put character development and dialogue in the game, but when you're constantly stuck in battle sequences, I don't really see the point. If I ever play a strategic RPG, the only one I'm vaguely interested in is Sega's Valkyrie Chronicles. The gameplay looks a little bit more action-packed, that's more my cup of tea. So, sorry, sorry, Fire Emblem. And that's this week's vlog thingy. Kinda Nintendo themed, huh? Well, I still don't have any big projects or animations coming soon, I'm afraid, so just another vlog for next week, I suppose. Till next week.